I've been more productive in the last few days than I have in the past 2 months. And the reason why is because of vibe coding. Claude 4 and VS Code's agent mode are unstoppable. Let me show you how I use my workflow. So the first thing we're going to do is go to stacks.dev, which is the site that I'm actually working on. I'm going to say, I am developing a feature that uses AI to generate a quiz based on a chunk of text. And then I'm going to click Refine Prompt. This is going to use AI to ask me some questions about what I'm actually doing so that I can get a better prompt and therefore better results to send to Copilot. All right, so here's 5 questions. What type of quiz questions should AI primarily generate? We'll say a mix of different types. What is the primary purpose or intended use case for these quizzes? Let's say knowledge retention for professionals. What kind of text will typically be used as input for quiz generation? We're going to say, let's go with educational content. What level of difficulty should the generated quiz question target be? We'll say medium. And how should the AI primarily derive questions from the text? We're going to go with strictly from explicit information. We're going to use that refine prompt. We're going to click go. Okay. So let's see. This looks like a pretty good prompt. So I'm going to go up here and copy this to my clipboard. And I'm just going to send that to Sonnet 4 in a new chat. Send to new chat. Editing Mike here. One of the things you'll notice with how Claude tries to handle this prompt is that it doesn't actually know where to start because it's a massive spec. I didn't provide it enough file context. So make sure that you click the paperclip and add context for the relevant files that Copilot's likely going to need to edit to implement a giant feature. Sometimes Claude is good enough to get the file context by a combination of searching and crawling through your project. But for this giant feature, I'm still kind of needed. Once I supply the context, then it'll have enough information to actually generate the feature. After supplying the appropriate context, Copilot's going to ask me a clarifying question before it continues to execute. I simply have to input the number corresponding to the answer I care about before Copilot can continue execution. Here I'm adding clarity that I want to add quiz generation to this layout. Copilot now has enough context to be able to crawl through the project and understand the structure a little bit more. So Claude's going through and generating a quiz based on the spec that I gave it. Let's create a new file. The new file has 3 different types: multiple choice, true, false, or short answer. It has the result. It even got a prompt to implement. That's crazy. Oh, how to actually generate a quiz. So like slightly alter key details from true statements, misdirection, use true information that's irrelevant to the question. Ooh, that's smart. There's a config for the different comprehension levels: basic, medium, and advanced. This is pretty impressive. See, this is why I can get way more done with Claude 4 and Copilot than I could ever do on my own. This all looks real. Let's speed things up by 10x. One day, AI is going to be this fast, but not quite yet. That'd be so cool, though. One thing to note is that Claude is actually making mistakes and then going back and fixing them, much like a programmer would. It's using the LSP, which is the thing that generates red squiggly lines when types don't line up. And it looks like it's done. Let's see how well it did. Looks like that there's a quiz toolbar down here now, this question mark. Let's click it and see if this works. That'll be insane if that works. Oh my gosh, here you go. Here's the quiz config, 10 questions, comprehension level medium, the distractor strategy. So this one probably don't need a UI for, but I'll always say misdirection and source content. So this is one thing that it got wrong. The source content is not something that we should supply. The source content should just implicitly take from whatever article we were viewing. So I will go to VS Code and I will say, don't allow the user to select an MCQ distractor strategy and implicitly use the current file's content as the source content. So fast forwarding a bit here, everything that Claude generated was perfect. The only thing that it didn't get quite right was the UX that I wanted, but that was because I didn't specify the UX specifically, so it can't generate what it doesn't have. But after a few reprompts, I got it exactly how I wanted it. Here's what we have. We're going to go to this article that's Vibe Coding AI Agents. I'm going to go to the quiz generator, go 10 questions, generate quiz. This does take a little bit of time. And there it is. Quiz has been generated. We can start it. What was the primary focus of vibe coding methodology? Shifting by line to architectural design and strategic planning. Which limitation does GitHub Copilot have regarding architectural work? It's not really good for high-level brainstorming. That's something that we do with this website. What powers GitHub Copilot's functionality? Any of these, probably the internal GitHub AI. Any of these things can be used to power Copilot. GitHub Copilot always generates perfect bug-free code that requires no quality control. That is false. Copilot can work with multiple popular IDEs, including VS Code and JetBrains. Yep. Copilot's contextual awareness allows it to learn from your code and comments. Yep. Explain how GitHub Copilot helps in bypassing the initial code grind. Copilot helps set up a project and allows the developer to function as an architect or product owner. Potential limitation of GitHub Copilot regarding code patterns. Copilot is based on the code that it is trained on, so it may not generate more advanced code patterns even when appropriate. What are 3 core aspects of the vibe coding methodology focus on shifting towards? Describing functionality versus writing code, testing function, high level architectural design. Was GitHub Copilot's scope typically limited to? Depends on if it's talking about agent mode. If it's talking about edit mode, then it's usually the current file or function unless you add additional files to the context. But if it's agent mode, then it's the entire code base. So don't know which this article is specified, but we'll go with the entire code base. Okay, so grading's in progress. You can see the ones that I got right or wrong. Thinks everything's wrong at first because it needs to finish grading. So, all right, so this was correct, this was correct. Oh, it uses OpenAI's Codex model. Interesting. So internal GitHub AI is not correct. All right. Here's the multiple choice. All three were wrong. How GitHub Copilot helps in bypassing the initial code grind. Correctly identifies that Copilot assists in the early stages of a project and enables developers to focus on higher level roles, which demonstrates a good understanding of the overall benefit. However, the question specifically asks how Copilot bypasses the initial code grind. The expected answer emphasizes the direct mechanism, its ability to generate boilerplate repetitive code and function stubs, thus accelerating the initial coding phase and moving away from line-by-line coding. So that's pretty good. And there we go. So not bad. There's a few bugs in terms of like it not having your answer for some of them. There's a bug that we'll troubleshoot, but overall, like as a learning tool, this is pretty sweet. Cool. So yeah, that's why Claude's insane. It's able to generate code that is correct, and as well as like unit tests. I had to unit test a lot of this stuff, but Claude did it all. So all I had to do was review. And it got me out of needing to write the code myself, which would take weeks. Implementing this feature end to end would have taken me at least a week before. Whereas now it's just prompting, reviewing the code, reprompting, generating tests, and then you're done. You have something that works like this. It's incredible. So I'm going to save this, and we'll link that in the video description. So hopefully we can put this URL in and people can go take a look at it. All right, that's it.